I'm giving up on Canada, guys, for good. Many of you know I left 3 years ago. I moved to Mexico with my wife and 2-year-old. I ended up going to Eastern Europe for a while, lived in Serbia, was running my business from there. Everything was great. And we got pregnant again with our second son. We were so excited. We wanted to come home, gain him Canadian citizenship and a passport, whatnot. But that was actually a mistake. I think we were blind to what was most important, and we were looking for comfort and safety and security while having a child. But this is not viable. I do not want to be here. My wife has been complaining a lot. Our quality of living is plummeted. As a freelance marketer, I do all right. I'm definitely above average. So it does concern me, like what other people are going to do. Hey, I'm Rich UX. I'm a coach for freelance marketers, but in today's video, I want to share why I and so many other Canadians are leaving. What's the tipping point? Will I ever go back? Will I miss it? And maybe what Canada has to do to pull itself out of this and become great again. So the first and most obvious thing to talk about is the cost of living. Most of us know that the average salary is around $4,000 to $5,000 a month before tax. The average rent of a 2-bedroom apartment in Vancouver or Toronto seems to be around $2,000, but even getting closer to $3,000 a month. So after taxes, the average single person doesn't really have a lot to work with. And so it's very natural that 2 people are required to maintain a home these days. And I think a lot less young people are moving out and going out on their own. And I think that's wise. I think that a lot of baby boomers made this big mistake thinking the best thing is for my children to go out on their own. I think that's a very Western concept, and I think it's failed us, but certainly supported condo sales all those years. And it's not just how much we make. I think we do all right, but our dollar very weak right now at an all-time low as I make this video, just 0.72 of a US dollar. I mean, we've had times where we've been worth more. And then, of course, the big thing is the taxes, whether it's the tax on your income, which is already quite substantial. But what I hate more is the sales tax, the GST, PST, or HST, depending on your province. Like, we already paid tax. And it's very clear that our tax money is not providing any increased quality of life, but is going towards supporting the massive growth in immigrants. And I don't really have a problem with any immigrant, but it's very obvious. Everyone in Canada knows what's happening. You just go to all the local places, the grocery store, you can go to McDonald's, Tim Hortons, you can go to the London Drugs, you can go to the Walmarts. You can go to pretty much any retail shop that's not owner run, but more of a franchise, Subway. You're going to see that the people working these jobs have come from afar. I actually wonder, where are all the Canadians? I don't see them very often anymore. And I wonder if I'm already late to be leaving. Maybe people aren't saying it, but it is very obvious that this is not sustainable. And I feel for people who don't have the support of their parents, their friends, their communities, and are all on your own. You better take this very seriously. Inflation might be tempered for now, but the price never went down. I really think more people need to get in tune with money, maybe Bitcoin, maybe understand how money printing works and all these important things that are dictating your life. Your dollar is not going as far as it used to. I recall my father buying a very lovely 3-bedroom home for $84,000 about 30 years ago. Now that same home is nearly $2 million. So the house didn't go up in value. The dollar has lost its purchasing power. And we always keep forgetting this. We go to the store and we're like, oh, look how expensive lettuce is. And nothing changed with lettuce. It's your paper money is quickly debasing, losing its power. Let's talk about job opportunities. The fact is, like, most people aren't freelancers like myself. You haven't had a chance to skill up for whatever reason. You've been working in a career or a job and you were focused with that company. But I've been seeing nothing but layoffs from large companies. And then I talk to small businesses and they say they can't hire anyone because the minimum wage so high. Nobody can afford to hire people. Yet the minimum wage is high relative to the gross domestic product we have or the revenues we have. But then when you look at the housing, the wage is actually too low. It's very obvious why we need all these more people coming in to work these jobs, because who's going to work for $18 an hour when you can't even afford a house? You're just probably going to go live with your family or get more roommates, and you're going to feel the nihilism of what's currently going on, and I feel bad for you. Stick with me here. I hope to give you some clarity through this, how someone like myself looks at all this. I don't have tons of friends anymore to ask about jobs, but I do speak to a decent amount of Canadians, and that certainly is Americans and people worldwide in our community, Rich+Niche, I hear all sorts of things what people say, and I have not heard anything about lots of job opportunities. What I do hear about is people trying to apply against 1,000 other people. What I do hear about is fake listings. What I do hear about is competition that's impossible. What I do hear about is AI and automation and fake resumes and all sorts of stuff. So in general, the job market seems pitiful. And in Canada, we don't have the company strength. We don't have the revenues. We import too many things. We're a real estate country. We do not export enough. So there's just simply not enough jobs even to serve what's going on here. So personally, I do expect some sort of government funding to the people. Let's call it social or basic income. I do imagine that. I don't know if there's another solution. And so I also anticipate inflation going up. I think a lot of people are waking up and looking around and they don't recognize Canada anymore. It's quite concerning. For a long time, though, we have no sense of culture. And there's too many cultures here, so no one defends each other. Everyone has different values. They've called Vancouver and Toronto like melting pots for so long. And it's a detriment to our country. It's really hurt us because no one can stand up for each other. And we're all looking to the government to support us with money. And that's coming out of our tax dollars. And that's their sales tax. It's a big giant loop of pain for the people. I think that if you have an opportunity to switch your country, you ought to think about it. And I know for most people, they can't because they are dependent on their income at their job. And that's why like over a decade ago, I was already preparing for something like this to give myself a sense of freedom, of location independence, so that if I wanted to leave, it could at least be an option. I'm still fighting to make that option real for me. And I think other people should quickly realize they might need to do the same. If you aren't already bothered by what happened in 2021, and maybe this video isn't even for you, but if you're watching this, I would assume you're thinking of leaving. So your number one job is to gain location independence, that you can work anywhere. So you can get a remote job, you can get remote income through a business online. I'm not going to get into that now, but you have to be thinking about that. That is going to be your ticket out of the madness that's happening right now. And so don't ask me about Canada's culture. There's none. There's absolutely nothing here. The only culture is this fake niceness, this fake rich. Canada is not rich at all. The people here are not that rich. So everyone has a Tesla, but then it's only the immigrants driving the Teslas. I don't understand how all these people can afford Teslas. I don't understand it. I'm not trying to buy a Tesla. I am still driving my paid off Toyota. I didn't realize people were upgrading their cars right now. So something very perplexing is going on. If you do your research, you can certainly find out more. And that's just the same line of thinking around politics. I don't really love talking about politics, but from my point of view, like it's abysmal. I don't even trust the elections. I remember a few years ago, they just quickly called the election and it was done. It seemed like to be the biggest BS thing I've ever seen. And I hear like boomers just saying like, there's nothing we can do about it. They're already comfortable enough that they don't really want to do anything about it. For someone like myself, who has 2 young children, only 40 years old, have plenty of time to make something great of my life. But if you're stealing every dollar I have, if you're raising the price of every single thing I buy, it's going to be difficult. So it doesn't really matter to me who's in charge right now. And they're all failing. And I'm even hearing today about some bill that they finessed to give themselves a lifelong pension. You know, they are just benefiting themselves at the cost of hardworking people like myself and others who are absolutely struggling. I try to keep a positive look on things. I believe that's critical to escaping the rat race, to be positive. But it's very easy to go into a dark place for people right now. So hang in there. If it's dark for you, hang in there. Seek support. You know, probably people don't have the balls to talk about immigration enough. And again, I don't have a problem with any particular country. I've certainly helped people of every race, every color, every country, every gender. I don't really care about that. But a country cannot act this way and think it's going to be successful. What's going on in Canada is that people are coming on tourism and then they're claiming asylum and staying. These people are all allowed to get thousands and thousands of dollars every month. And I think what people are starting to suspect is these people come in groups. They will all live in the same house and they will share their asylum benefits. They'll buy a Tesla and share it or buy 2 of them and they won't work. They will just feed off of us as long as they can, like parasites. And the government is allowing this.
There are a lot of pressures on our system. Increasing the immigration levels interestingly, will take some of the pressure off of the system.
They think those people will vote for them, right? It's really obvious. Same thing happening in the US right now. Open the borders, give them citizenship, let them vote for us. We'll keep power. It's actually disgusting, guys. Let's talk about healthcare. That's on a lot of people's mind. And I'm sure I have a bit of a contrarian viewpoint on this, but to make this simply put, my son fractured his knee and he was able to go to the ER quickly and get some support, but he wasn't able to get a cast for days. And that's not the biggest thing, but Canada is all about telling you it's free healthcare. But a lot of people are waiting so long to get help that they are losing their life. I don't think Canada ever boasts about its success in the healthcare industry. I think that we're just sort of going along with this idea. And then we have people in the US who think, oh, you're so lucky. So in certain circumstances, I could see that. Definitely in certain cases, you are lucky. But lost my mom at 59, lost my father-in-law at 60, both had cancer. And I go to the cancer place and they lay out the candy bars for you so you can have a smile while you watch your pre-cancer screening videos that tell you there's only one solution. And that's why my personal opinion is to be my own doctor. And people hate that. People hate when other people think that they can have authority over their own body. But it's so weird, right? We have like these groups that are, my body, my choice or whatever. But when someone's like, but I don't want to trust the doctor every time they say something, they get home. How can you do that? You got to trust the doctor. You got to trust the universities. You got to trust them, guys. And, I look outside, it's November 1st today and it's 7 degrees. It's very cold. It's been raining all week. It's going to continue to do so until March. And most of Canada goes through this terrible winter. If you're in Alberta, Manitoba, Winnipeg, it's unbearable, minus 30 degrees. So for 5 months of the year, we can't go outside. We can't do the fun things. We can't stay as healthy. We have to add all this up. And it really sucks because if you're a parent, you don't want to leave the grandparents. You don't want to leave your community. You don't want to leave. You need that support. But we wouldn't be the first people to have to do this. My grandparents and my wife's grandparents have all migrated to some degree, especially when times were even crazier through wars, through oppression and such. But we are re-entering difficult times because the previous 3 to 4 decades were so good. And you guys know good times creates weak men, which in turn creates difficult times. And we're entering those difficult times, but that will make us the strong men. And hopefully our children can learn a lesson, but unlikely they won't. And they will be gifted with ease because myself and other millennials and Gen Z and those of us struggling now are going to make it. Humans will always make it. We're going to make it. It's just going to be really hard. I want to find a solution. You don't have to make your life hard. You just have to give yourself some options. And I know a lot of us don't have that, but you have to seek that. This is your journey. This is my journey. When I saw the cost of living going up and I had 2 kids and my house maintenance costs were just so expensive, I realized this isn't really sustainable. I started looking. I've been looking for a while. I'm looking for residency in another country so I can stay forever. My research has led me to look at Southeast Asia, Europe, but all of those have different challenges. Sometimes you can get time, sometimes you can get low tax, sometimes you can get other benefits, but it's difficult to make the choice long-term to get a residency. But then I started looking in South America, particularly Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina. And these places have extremely good tax regimes for foreigners. The first place to look is Paraguay, no tax on foreign income. The cost of living is less than a third of what it is in Canada. Now, the problem is you have to learn how to speak Spanish. But I think that we're all going to face challenges and sacrifices and need to learn a lot in the coming decades. So I don't see that as a problem. And I also see with AI, ChatGPT, Google Translate, language is not the barrier it once was. And with the money you save, you can afford a nice little Spanish teacher. That's where I'm looking. I've already hired consultants. I've already prepared passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, the things I need to get residency in Paraguay. Now, the great thing about residency in Paraguay is it's just an application. You don't have to prove income. You don't even have to put money in the bank anymore. You just have to get yourself there, make the application, and within 30 days, you'll have a 2-year temporary residency. After 2 years, you'll be granted permanent residency. You'll have a ID from Paraguay, and you can go to Argentina or Uruguay for a year. So you'll have a lot of options. Life will be so much cheaper. At least that's what I perceive, and that's where I'm planning to go. The weather is better. The government's more chill. All the things that aren't being made a mistake in Canada are found. going south. Let's talk about the weather too. Hot all year round, too hot. But when I looked at all the real estate in Paraguay, it's like 150,000 for a beautiful condo. And I wonder, like, why are the condos so much cheaper and so much more beautiful than they are in Canada? It's almost like the bad weather requires different materials because these Paraguay apartments are nice. They all have pools, gyms. They have a lot more co-working rooms now because it's more modern. There's a lot of exciting things. And that's what one of my goals is for 2025 is to get down there, explore it, make my application. And if I like it, I'll start working my family down there and bringing my things there and transition. I think anyone could do the same. But first, again, you have to have an income that you can take with you. I work with all of my clients online as a freelance marketer. And I also use a sustainable business model where I have recurring income. So I already thought this through that the number one thing I need in the future was a recurring remote income. Would I miss Canada? Would I ever come back in the future? Probably not if I can make this work. I think digital nomad is transitioning into a bit more permanence. I think you want that freedom and that location independence, but you don't want to be constantly moving. I did that without kids, but I was never as productive as I am. You have to have some sense of a base. That's why you want to pick something quite central. Although Paraguay doesn't have the ocean, there is water, but you can quickly get to other places because you're very central in that region. That was the same thing with Serbia. I was able to go to Croatia, Greece, multiple places in Eastern Europe. And I would check out the Nomad Capitalist YouTube channel. That's one of my favorite. Go where you're treated best. That's what we say over there. So don't just listen to me, right? I guess a lot of people have this mentality like, I need a job, right? And so they can't even envision themselves leaving. And you wouldn't want to get a job in Paris. You want to get income through the internet, and then you want to go. Make that your first step. That's what I did. What do I think Canada might need to become great again? I don't know if Canada can ever become great again because the government got too big. It would require someone to go into the government and kick everybody out. And so tons of people would lose their jobs. We would have to drop government spending and expansion. Otherwise, everything right now supports more big government. It just doesn't fly, guys. And I know that things weren't that tough in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even early 2000s. So no one did anything. No one was watching. But piece by piece, they have made things worse. They have enriched themselves, and they've made the average person like you and I suffer. So there you have it, guys. The reasons why I think Canada's broken and why ultimately I'm leaving. Cost of living, culture, quality of life doesn't make sense. And I think it's going to get worse. Now, fortunately, I saw this coming from a mile away, okay? I've been preparing for this. By choosing freelance digital marketing, the number one thing I got was remote income. I actually think remote income is worth 5 times more than regular income because when you can move, you can get all these other great benefits. Was it tough starting out? Yes, just like any other business, but it was well worth it. And if you have enough people to support you, you can make it happen. Getting the first client is the biggest mountain to climb, but once you're there, everything is downhill. Fortunately for me, after I got a few clients, things really picked up. I make much more than the average salary now or how much I would have made as a lawyer. My wife doesn't work. She's a full-time stay-at-home mom to our 2 beautiful sons who are 4 and 1, and I'm going to take them all to Paraguay as soon as I can. The good news for you is I can actually show you how to become a freelance digital marketer. That's what I've been working on as well, is building a method that people can follow. If you want to find out how I did this, because you might be interested in doing the same, watch this next video.